Every year, billions of dollars flow from China into Africa. Some call it the greatest development partnership of the 21st century. Others call it one of the biggest debt traps in modern history. Both can't be right. So, what's really happening? For more than 2 decades, China has financed the roads, railways, ports, and power plants that traditional Western lenders were often too slow or unwilling to finance. Between 2000 and 2023, Chinese lenders committed roughly $182 billion to African governments and state-owned enterprises. To many African governments, this was an opportunity for transformation. To critics, it was a debt trap. The accusation is simple. Lend more than a country can realistically repay. Then, when repayment becomes difficult, use the debt to gain political leverage or control over strategic assets. Sri Lanka's Hambantota port is often cited as the textbook example, and that has led many to assume the same strategy is unfolding across Africa. But if the objective was simply to keep countries borrowing more, why did Chinese lending decline so sharply after 2016? As African debt burdens grew, Chinese lenders did not simply double down, they became more cautious. In 2023, lending rose modestly to around $4.6 billion, the first annual increase since 2016. These numbers do not prove or disprove the debt trap theory, but they do suggest that the story is more complicated than a simple predator and prey narrative. One of the most important clues comes from research by Kathleen J. Brown of Aid Data. She found that around half of Chinese loans to sub-Saharan Africa were missing from official sovereign debt records. The debt existed, but it was not always visible in the numbers used to measure a country's official debt burden. And here is the twist. Brown found that the problem was not simply Chinese lenders hiding information. Borrowing governments also had incentives to keep some liabilities off the books, because lower reported debt could help countries remain within debt sustainability limits and preserve access to further borrowing. Suddenly, the story is no longer just about China. It is also about transparency, governance, and political incentives. China is not acting as a charity. It is pursuing its own economic and strategic interests. Just as the United States, Europe, private creditors, and international investors pursue theirs. In this global competition, Africa is not simply a passive arena. It is a player. But to negotiate effectively, you need the power to choose. Because the competition is not just about money, it is about influence. And while global powers compete over who builds the roads, the ports, and the power plants, Africa's actual needs remain much simpler. Reliable electricity, factories, jobs, industrialization. The question, therefore, is not whether Africa should accept or reject Chinese money. It is whether African governments can turn foreign finance into African power. China did not create all of Africa's debt problems, but its rise has exposed them. The infrastructure gap, the lack of transparency, and the crushing weight of dependence. Ultimately, the greatest danger is not one particular lender, it is dependence itself. Because whether the money comes from Beijing, Washington, or Brussels, countries that cannot finance their own ambitions will always have less power to set the terms. The goal is not to find a better creditor. It is to build a continent that no longer needs one. And perhaps that is the real measure of sovereignty, not having the power to borrow, but having the power to choose, and, when necessary, the power to say no.